This day in sports history. A member of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sports. Learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com. It's July 2nd, and on this day in 1977, it was a grueling marathon of a tennis match that left some people wondering about the ugly American at the end. So this is the Wimbledon final in 1977, and when I said ugly American, who was the first person that popped into your head? Well, it wasn't him. It was Jimmy Connors taking on the Swede Bjorn Borg on this day. It was a hot day at the All England Club for this one. Borg was the defending champion. Connors had last won Wimbledon in 1974 when he was winning everything. Connors took the first set 6-3, Borg took control with his change of pace ground strokes, and he neutralized Connors' power game to take the next two sets. Connors won the fourth 7-5, avoiding the tiebreak, which was fortunate considering how long this match already was at this point. Now in the fifth set, it looked like Borg was just going to cruise, up 4-love in the fifth and up a break on Connors in the fifth game and up 30-40. But Jimmy dug deep. He held serve, and then he broke Borg twice to even it up at 4-4 in the decisive set. Connors had actually gotten the crowd on his side, pumping his fist after winning points and exhorting himself to go and come on. But then something weird happened. Connors lost the momentum with a double fault in the ninth game, and the crowd actually cheered. It really wasn't much of anything other than a polite clap, but Connors was not pleased with that, and he threw up the middle finger on his right hand to those seated closest to him. When Borg came to the net and finished off the next shot, the cheers for him grew louder, and Connors was cooked. He lost the next 2 points. Borg broke Connors' serve, then served out the match to win 6-4 in the fifth and secure his second straight Wimbledon title on his way to 5 straight. It was just the third time that Borg had beaten Connors in the previous 11 tries. But Borg's dominance was coming out. These two would meet again in the 78 finals, with Borg winning his third straight Wimbledon championship. Interesting fact, 77 was the first year John McEnroe actually played at Wimbledon, and he made the field as a qualifier, and then he made it all the way through to the semifinals before losing in 4 sets to Connors. On this day in 1932, American Ellsworth Vines beat Englishman Henry Bunny Austin in straight sets to win the Wimbledon men's singles title. Nothing really special about that, but what was special was what Austin wore during his match. Can you imagine playing a summer tennis match in long flannel pants? Well, the man that most knew as Bunny got tired of wearing the standard tennis attire that really was a traditional cricket uniform, and so he debuted shorts at Wimbledon for the first time. Now, this was not the first day that he wore shorts, but this was the first Wimbledon that short pants made an appearance. And royalty typically shows up for the championship match. When King George V and Queen Mary did not comment upon Austin's bare legs, that was seen as acceptance, and other male tennis players began wearing shorts after this match. On this day in 1921, it was a fight so big that an area was built just to stage it. So there are a few elements to this fight that make it interesting. First, the promoter of this fight was a man by the name of Tex Rickard. The man knew how to sell, and he lived by the mantra, give the people what they want, the way they want it, and not the way you think best. He was Jack Dempsey's promoter, who wasn't a very popular fighter despite having won the heavyweight title in 1919. You see, this came on the heels of World War I. Patriotism was near universal across the U.S., but Dempsey had been indicted in early 1920 for dodging the draft. The charge was eventually dropped, but he still was labeled as a slacker by the American public for not pulling his weight in the war effort. So Rickard saw an opportunity. The Frenchman Georges Carpentier had been hailed as a war hero in France, winning numerous medals for his bravery and for being wounded twice while serving in the French Air Corps. So it was the war hero versus the draft evader, a battle of good and evil, even if it was his own man being labeled as the evil one in this one. And this fight really wasn't even supposed to take place on this day. It was supposed to take place in December of 1920 in New York. But there had been an election in November, and the new governor, Nathan Miller, did not approve of holding this fight in his state. Not because he found boxing distasteful, but because Dempsey and Carpentier were set to split $500,000 to work a few minutes. Now, that's Miller's paraphrased words, not mine, while thousands of New Yorkers were out of work. So instead, Rickard found a spot of land in New Jersey, constructed a bowl big enough to stuff 90,000 people in to watch this fight, called it Boyle's 30 Acres, and set the fight date for July 2, 1921. While it fell short of capacity, 80,000 people did buy tickets. They bought nearly $1.8 million in tickets, which was a record at that time, and remained the record for gate sales to a boxing match for more than 60 years. This was also the first fight ever broadcast on the radio. Demand was so high for news of this fight that General Electric built the largest radio transmitter at the time to carry the signal to a relay. Ringside seats sold for $50 apiece. It was said at the time that there was more money represented per square foot than in any other event in sports history. When they finally stepped into the ring, Dempsey was more than 20 pounds heavier than the former light heavyweight Carpentier. After a mostly quiet first 2 rounds, Dempsey began to punish Carpentier late in the third, putting him on the mat twice. He was saved by the bell, but barely made it back to his corner. In the 4th round, Dempsey continued to punish the other fighter. He knocked him down a few seconds into the 4th. Carpentier got up at 9. Dempsey swarmed him, hit him twice more, and the Frenchman was done. Dempsey retained the title, but it was really Rickard who won this one, coming out of this boxing match with pockets full of money and the reputation of being the best boxing promoter in the business. On this day in 1903, baseball player Ed Delahanty died when he fell, jumped, or was pushed from a railroad bridge over the Niagara River. Delahanty was at the tail end of his baseball career in '03, playing with the Washington Senators. He was a .346 hitter over his 16-year career. In 1903, he was hitting .333 with a homer through 42 games. Well, on this night, Delahanty was riding the train, but he was kicked off by the conductor for being drunk and disorderly. There were also reports of him brandishing a knife at passengers after having a gracious plenty of whiskey shots. He started walking once he was ejected from the stopped train and was crossing the International Railway Bridge that connects Buffalo with Fort Erie, which is near Niagara Falls. It's not certain what happened next, but he either lost his balance due to his intoxication and he fell over the edge, or intentionally jumped. There was also a report of a man following Delahanty that night, and some believe he was robbed and murdered. His body was found 2 weeks later and 20 miles south of the bridge at the bottom of Niagara Falls. By that point, it took dental records to confirm his identity. And a couple of quick nuggets for you. On this day in 1966, Billie Jean King won Wimbledon for the first time in her career. It was also her first major tennis title. On this day in both 1926 and 1930, the golfer Bobby Jones was given a ticker tape parade in New York for his wins at the British Open. In 2000, golfer Notah Begay won for the second straight week on the PGA Tour, becoming the first player since his college roommate Tiger Woods won back-to-back weeks on the PGA Tour in 1999. And in 1967, Catherine Lacoste became the first foreign winner and the first amateur to win the Women's U.S. Open. It was a nice 63rd birthday present for her father, René Lacoste, who is known not only for winning several tennis championships, but also as the designer and creator of the alligator emblazoned shirts that rose to popularity in the U.S. in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And I will have more on René Lacoste in a couple of weeks. And time now for today's non-sports Did You Know? In Minnesota, it is illegal to grease a pig for the purpose of releasing it and attempting to catch it. I suppose there are some cases where it's okay to grease a pig, but I'm a city boy, so I'm not going to be much help with that one. That's all for today. I'll have more tomorrow on This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.